Hello, everybody. Welcome to our E for B podcast.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
So, I want to take you back to 1969. Two entirely different nations went to war, like an actual real military war.
Right, they dropped bombs, they deployed troops, the whole thing.
And they did all of this, believe it or not, because of a single game. A game of simply kicking a ball.
It sounds wild, but it's true.
Today, we are doing a deep dive into the source material to look at the bizarre, the ancient, and honestly, the bloody history of association football.
Which, most of you probably just call soccer. Or, well, football.
Exactly. And the mission of this deep dive today is to really look past that modern multi-billion-dollar industry we see now.
Right. We want to figure out how a simple leather ball became this massive global obsession.
Because whether you are a diehard fan or, someone who has literally never watched a single match, this game is a mirror. It is a key to understanding global culture and really just human identity.
It really is. It reflects who we are.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I want to start by clearing up a very modern argument. The great debate over the word soccer versus football.
Oh, yeah. The classic internet debate.
I always see people online acting like Americans just made the word up, like just to be annoying. But looking at my notes here, the word soccer is actually a British invention.
It absolutely is. I mean, It started as slang back in the 1870s over at the University of Oxford in England.
So they invented it.
Yes, the official name of the sport was association football. And they needed to tell it apart from rugby football.
Right. And I read that the Oxford students, they had this habit of shortening words and then adding an ER to the end. Like they called rugby rugger.
Exactly. So they took the word association and they shortened it down to a soccer.
A soccer. That just sounds weird.
It does. But eventually that just naturally became soccer. England invented the word. They used it as this sort of upper-class prep school slang.
And then they spread it all around the English-speaking world.
Yeah. And then decades later, they just decided to stop using it.
It is honestly like an embarrassing childhood nickname.
How do you mean?
Like, imagine your parents giving you a really silly nickname when you were a kid. You keep using it, and then 20 years later, your parents judge you for still using the exact name they gave you.
That is a perfect analogy. That is exactly what happened. But, what's really fascinating here is that the roots of this game go much, much deeper than Victorian England.
Oh, for sure.
The sources show us that this is not just a European invention at all. The urge to kick a ball, it's a universal human impulse.
Right. I was amazed to read about these ancient versions of the game. People all over the planet just looked at a round object and they decided, hey, I want to kick that.
Yeah, they just couldn't resist.
For example, during the Han Dynasty in China, they played a game called Cuju. The players had to pass a solid leather ball around without letting it touch the ground.
And the physical demands of Cuju were just incredible. I mean, had to kick this ball through a circular hole in a net.
Okay, sounds hard, but doable.
Wait, that net was strung between two bamboo poles sitting 10 meters high in the air.
10 meters? That is over 30 feet up. That sounds physically impossible.
It required immense skill. And, they were not alone in this. In Japan, they played a highly ceremonial game called Kamari.
And even in North America, right. The Algonquian people played Pasuko Kahowog.
Yes. The sources describe that North American game as being almost identical to the chaotic folk football played in medieval Europe.
Meaning what? Like big fields?
Very big. Hundreds of people playing on massive fields that were literally miles long.
So did all these ancient games eventually merge together to create the modern sport? Like, did they trade rules?
Actually, no. FIFA, the official governing body today, they explicitly state there is no direct historical connection between those ancient games and the modern European rules.
Wait, none at all?
None. The modern game did not grow out of Cuju. They are separate.
That is what I find so fascinating. If they are totally separate, it means human beings are just hardwired to want to play this way.
We really are.
You give any group of humans a ball, and eventually they will just invent football.
Precisely. It emerges completely on its own across entirely distinct cultures. The biomechanics of running and kicking They are just natural to us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But to get to the modern game, we have to look at how people tried to organize that basic human urge. Because for a very long time, it was not organized at all.
It was absolute chaos.
Oh, completely.
In the mid-19th century in England, different public schools were all playing by their own local rules. Imagine trying to play a match against a neighboring town, but you do not even agree on how to score a point.
It was completely unmanageable. You had boys from different schools going to university together, trying to play a game, and, well, ending up in actual fistfights.
Just because their rules were incompatible.
Exactly. So in 1863, representatives from these different schools and clubs decided they had to fix the mess. They met at the Freemasons Tavern in London.
I love this image. A dark, smoky tavern in Victorian London. A bunch of serious gentlemen arguing passionately over a leather ball.
It's very dramatic. Their goal was to draft the first official laws of the game. They wanted one single rule book for everyone.
But they hit a massive roadblock, right, over something called hacking.
Yes, the great hacking schism.
I was reading the description of hacking in the sources, and I could not believe it. They were literally defending the right to violently kick their opponents in the shins.
They were. Hacking meant intentionally kicking a player in the legs to bring them down. And a club called Blackheath FC strongly wanted to keep hacking in the rules.
That is insane.
They also wanted to keep the ability to carry the ball in their hands.
Wait, why would anyone fight to keep shin kicking in a sport? Like, did they really think getting kicked in the bones built character?
But they genuinely believed it did. The Blackheath representatives argued that banning hacking would ruin the courage and the bravery of the game.
They thought a rule against violence was cowardly.
Yes. But the rest of the group strongly disagreed. The majority voted to ban hacking entirely. And they also voted to ban carrying the ball.
And the Blackheath group was so furious about this new rule against violence that they just withdrew from the meeting entirely.
They did. They left the Football Association right then and there.
It is just like a chaotic family game night. Half the family gets so mad about the house rules for playing Monopoly, they just flip the board, rage quit the game, and storm out.
And by storming out, they accidentally changed sports history.
Right. Because on their way out the door, that angry group went and formed the Rugby Football Union.
Exactly.
They literally invented a completely different sport just because they wanted to keep kicking people on the legs and carrying the ball.
It's funny, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, that tavern meeting in 1863 is the defining moment for modern football.
Because they picked a lane.
Yes, it was a philosophical shift. They were taking a violent, unstructured mob activity, and they were taming it. They were trying to make it a structured, gentlemanly pursuit.
So they established the fundamental DNA of the sport right there. Feet only, and no violence.
That DNA allowed the sport to spread rapidly.
Yeah.
But the story of who was actually allowed to play the game, that is much more complicated.
Yeah, this brings us to the history of women's football. And honestly, this part of the source material shocked me.
It's a tough history to read.
The FA proved they were completely willing to ban a massive demographic of players just to maintain absolute control of the sport's revenues.
It is a history of massive, unexpected popularity, which was then followed by severe institutional suppression, or basically the people in charge just shutting it down.
Let us set the scene here for everyone. It is World War I. Millions of men go off to fight. Women step in to fill the massive labor shortages.
Right, they enter the heavy industry workforce.
They take over the munitions factories, doing exhausting, highly dangerous work.
And just like the male factory workers did before them, the women started playing football during their lunch break.
Just to pass the time.
Yeah, they formed worksite teams to boost morale. But the public response was incredible. The sport boomed.
It was not just a small novelty, it became a national sensation. The most famous team was the Dick Kerr Ladies FC from Preston.
Oh, they were legendary.
Think about this single event in 1920. They played a match on Boxing Day at Goodison Park. They drew a staggering crowd of 53,000 people.
Which is huge.
And another 10 to 14,000 people were locked outside because the stadium was completely full.
53,000 people. I mean, that is a sold-out modern mega stadium crowd. And the women were raising huge amounts of money for war veterans and charities.
And they were good, right?
Very good. They were highly skilled, and they were absolutely beloved by the public.
But the Football Association, the men in charge, they did not like this success at all. In 1921, the FA banned women from playing on any pitches owned by association members.
They effectively outlawed the women's game.
Wait, so the FA basically saw a hugely successful rival business drawing 53,000 fans, got jealous because they couldn't control the money, and just outlawed it on their turf.
They certainly tried to use medical excuses to hide that jealousy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the FA released a statement claiming that the game of football was, quote, quite unsuitable for females and ought not to be encouraged.
Unsuitable, right.
They cited doctors who claimed the sport was too physically dangerous for women's bodies.
But those same women were literally building heavy bombs in factories all day long, so the physical danger argument feels, well, very hollow.
It was extremely hollow. Historians widely agree that the ban was motivated by envy and a perceived threat to male dominance.
They just wanted the control back.
Yes. The FA saw a hugely successful rival attraction. They could not control the women's money.
Wow.
Furthermore, the men returning from the war felt threatened that women were occupying their spaces, both in the factories and on the football pitch.
That is incredibly petty, and this ban, it did not just last a few years, it lasted 50 years.
Half a century.
Half a century of lost progress. 50 years of women being told they could not play on proper fields.
And other countries followed their lead, too. Brazil legally banned women from playing.
Yeah.
France and West Germany implemented bans.
It was everywhere.
But the women demonstrated unbelievable resilience. They kept playing anyway. They played in public parks. They played on rugby pitches. They just refused to let the game die.
And look at the reward for that resilience today. The 2023 Women's World Cup set massive records. Over 1.5 million tickets were sold.
It proves that the human urge to play this game cannot be legislated away.
You bring up an interesting point about legislation there, because off the pitch, the authorities were trying to control who could play. But on the pitch, players were constantly finding loopholes to bend the game to their advantage.
Oh, definitely. And that forced the actual rule book to evolve in real time.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sport is famous for its unique timekeeping. It uses something called stoppage time.
Yes. A standard game is 90 minutes of continuous play. The clock does not stop when the ball goes out of bounds.
Right.
The referee just keeps track of the wasted time and then adds it all up at the end of the half.
This is very different from American sports. In basketball or American football, the clock stops constantly. Every time there is an interruption, the clock pauses.
Exactly.
But in soccer, the clock runs, and you get extra time at the end. Why did they design it this way?
Well, they did not originally design it this way. It actually comes back to a specific, highly dramatic match in 1891. Aston Villa was playing against Stoke.
Okay.
At that time, when 90 minutes hit, the game was just over. 0 extra time was added.
So Aston Villa was leading the game 1-0. There were only 2 minutes left on the clock. Stoke
was awarded a penalty kick. This was a massive chance for them to tie the game.
And the Aston Villa goalkeeper realized exactly how the clock worked. He knew the referee could not stop time. So he deliberately took the ball and he kicked it as high and as far as he possibly could. He kicked it entirely out of the stadium.
He literally punted the ball into the neighboring streets just to waste the clock.
That is amazing.
And because the clock was continuously running, by the time someone actually found the ball and brought it back into the stadium, the 90 minutes had completely expired.
The referee blew the whistle. The game was over. Stoke never even got to take their penalty kick. That is the most brilliantly petty thing I have ever heard. One petty, time-wasting goalie finds a loophole, kicks a ball over a wall, and permanently alters the rules of a global sport forever.
Because of that exact incident, the lawmakers had to change the rules. They realized players would exploit any gap in the system.
So they added stoppage time?
Yes, they decided that a half must be extended to allow a penalty kick to be completed. And they gave referees the power to add time for deliberate delays.
The rules are not just abstract ideals, they're a direct reaction to human beings trying to cheat.
That is the reality of the laws of the game. They are a living document. Every single rule update, from that 1891 delay to modern updates today, is an ongoing attempt to legislate fairness against human nature.
Like with modern technology, right?
Exactly. Think about the video assistant referee, or VAR. They use high-definition cameras and digital lines to catch offside offenses by a fraction of an inch.
They are trying to use technology to fight against our basic human nature. We want to win, so we push boundaries. The rules try to push back.
And this battle between human nature and the rules happens on an unbelievably massive scale. Let us zoom out from the pitch for a second and look at the world stage.
Okay, let's zoom out.
Because this incredibly simple set of rules has grown into a footprint that is hard to even comprehend.
The numbers are staggering. During the 2022 Men's World Cup in Qatar, the estimated television audience was, it was around 5 billion people.
5 billion people. That is over 60% of the entire global population. More than half the humans on planet Earth all tuned in to watch the same exact thing.
You cannot even wrap your mind around a number like that. At that scale, it is not just a sport anymore. Football did not conquer the world because it has the most complex rules.
No, it didn't.
It conquered the world because it is a blank canvas. It is so simple that any culture, anywhere, can project their own values and their own emotions onto it.
This raises an important question. What happens when a nation projects its deepest political emotions onto a football match?
That sounds dangerous.
The source material gives us two historical examples of this, and they are complete polar opposites. Let's look at the positive side first. The Ivory Coast.
Right. In 2006, the nation of Ivory Coast was trapped in the middle of a brutal years-long civil war. The country was split in half.
This is devastating.
But their national football team managed to qualify for the World Cup for the very first time.
And the players knew the entire nation was watching. So right after the qualifying match, the star player, Didier Drogba, he took a microphone in the locker room.
On national television, right?
Yes. He got down on his knees on national television. He begged the warring factions in his country to just stop fighting. He told them that a great country could not be torn apart this way.
And his plea actually worked. The sheer emotional weight of the football team uniting the country, it led to a ceasefire. They helped secure a truce. A football team literally brought peace.
They even insisted on playing a subsequent match in the rebel-held capital. It brought both opposing armies together in the same stadium peacefully for the first time.
It is a testament to the unifying power of the sport. It's the only thing on earth that can act as a peace treaty.
But so, what does this all mean when things go wrong? Because we have the dark side of that same power.
Right. In 1969, this exact same sport was the final spark that caused an actual war, the football war.
It happened between El Salvador and Honduras. To be clear, the underlying tensions were already very, very high. There were major disputes over land reform, immigration, and economics.
The countries were on the brink.
But it was a series of World Cup qualifying matches between their national teams that pushed them right over the edge.
How exactly does a soccer game escalate into military combat, like psychologically?
Psychologists explain this through a mechanism called identity fusion. This happens when your brain stops distinguishing between your personal safety and your team's success.
Wait, so your individual identity becomes permanently tied to the collective identity of the team?
Exactly. So if the team loses, your cortisol levels actually spike. Your body reacts as if you were physically attacked in the street.
Wow. So when El Salvador played Honduras, the fans experienced intense identity fusion.
Yes. It was not just 11 players against 11 players. The fans felt their very existence was clashing on that grass. The matches featured extreme fan violence.
Crowds rioted outside the opposing team's hotels, right?
And the media in both countries stoked mass panic. The results on the field became a matter of national survival.
And following the final match, Diplomatic relations were completely severed. Borders were closed. And shortly after, the military planes began dropping bombs.
It magnifies human emotions on a global scale. The joy, the anger, the intense tribalism, it all gets projected right onto this simple game.
Which really brings us back to where we started. We have traveled from ancient Chinese dynasties to smoky taverns in London.
We've seen women playing in front of 53,000 people.
And nations declaring war over a single goal. The game has evolved from a chaotic, violent mob activity into a highly regulated, multi-billion-dollar machine.
The evolution is truly remarkable.
But it leaves me with a thought, something for you, the listener, to mull over as we finish up. Today we have technology like VAR increasingly stepping in. Cameras are trying to correct every single little human error on the pitch.
Yeah, they want it to be perfect.
But what will this sport look like in another 100 years? Will the pursuit of absolute technological perfection eventually erase the flawed, messy human drama?
That is the big unknown.
Because at the end of the day, is it not that exact human flaw that made us fall in love with the beautiful game in the first place? Thank you for joining us in this podcast, and until our next episode. Bye.